Okay. Okay, so we're starting the recording tonight. Okay, let's get going here. Welcome, everyone. My name is Priscilla Fajeda, and I'm a member of Collective Diaspora, Black Co-ops and Black Co-ops. And tonight, it's our pleasure to welcome 40 Acre, the co-op, to talk about their experience and to talk about Black land, saving Black land through cannabis. And we have panelists here tonight. Our Angela Dawson. Welcome, Angela. Thank you for accepting the invitation to be in conversation in this series of conversations where Black diaspora is happy to highlight the amazing work Black co-ops have been doing in the US and across the African diaspora. This is the third of a series of Black co-ops that have featured their amazing works. And Omar is gonna tell us a little bit more about Collective Diaspora. And so tonight, getting started to welcome Angela Dawson and also Tonya Whitfield from 40 Acre, and then also Zadeh Harut from Grand Risings Farm. And the run of shows tonight, the agenda for tonight, it is gonna last about 75 minutes, and I'm gonna open up with this round of introduction, and then I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the interpretation. So tonight we have interpretation into Spanish that our amazing interpreter, Lady Vidal, is interpreting, and also into Portuguese. We have Michelle Joseph doing the interpretation into Portuguese. And thank you, interpreters. It's such an amazing, important work of language justice that we are excited about and grateful for. Thank you. And then we're gonna have Danielle Nkali, who is also a member of Collective Diaspora, is gonna be interviewing the panelists tonight. It's gonna run for about 25 minutes. We're gonna start with a presentation by Angela Dawson, about 25 minutes, and then we're gonna have interviews back and forth between Danielle and Kali and the panelists. And then we're gonna open it up for Q&A. I'm gonna be monitoring the chat, so please feel free to share any questions through the chat. And yes, that's about it. For interpretation, Omar, can you please share the slide with interpretation? Are you able to share it? For interpretation,
yes,
okay. Yeah, just a quick slide so you can see how interpretation is gonna work. You can choose, the listeners can choose the output language. So if you wanna hear interpretation into Portuguese, just click on the little globe on the bottom right of your screen here. And then you click it and you select the 3 options of languages and choose the one that you want to listen to. So if you want to hear it in Portuguese, just click on Portuguese and it's going to be translated simultaneously. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to hand it over to Omar. Omar Freire is a co-founder of Collective Diaspora and also the interim coordinator. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here tonight, and I hope we're going to have a great conversation. Please feel free to share your name, location, affiliation, and what brings you tonight. Thank you. Omar?
Thanks, Priscilla. So good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. This is a special moment for us when we get to really shine a spotlight on people that are doing powerful work and cooperatives, Black cooperatives that are doing powerful work. So We appreciate, this is the third time that we've held this kind of event, the Black Co-ops for Change series. And it's important for us just to start out letting you know what we're about. What is Collective Diaspora? So Collective Diaspora is a global co-op of Black co-ops and support groups. We are a membership-based organization with Black cooperatives and Black-led cooperative support organizations from all across the African diaspora. Basically, we can think of us as connecting the global Black solidarity economy. That's what we're about. Our mission, what we're about, is building a regenerative economy grounded in racial and gender equity through the development and the growth of Black cooperatives around the world. So yes, we said around the world, because the stuff that we're dealing with is worldwide. So it's important for us to really be connected and organizing worldwide. So, that's the starting point for us. We know, and it's widely recognized, that a major part of the massive wealth that exists today in this world came from, it's part of in this globalized capitalist economy. This was built on the kidnapping and the exploitation of African people during the transatlantic slave trade, on through colonialism and neo-colonialism to this present day. So, I don't know if folks know, Colombia's brand new, the first Black vice president, Francia Marquez, has referred to this as an economic model of death. And all of us that are building cooperatives, what we're doing is part of an economic model of life. And we need each other in order to be able to do that, especially in Black communities. So that's why we're here. That's why we're calling together all elements of Black communities across the diaspora that are grounded in cooperative traditions of collective ownership and collective work. These are the things that have kept our ancestors alive, and that's what we carry with us today. So it's through this work, this deepening our connections with each other. Through doing that, we make our cooperatives and our organizations stronger, and in turn our communities stronger and more resilient. So that's what brings us together and has brought, many of us together into Collective Diaspora. And last year, we came together, formed a steering committee, did a lot of internal work to build a democratic structure, a transparent structure. And we're carrying that work on into this new year. And we aim to soon be bringing on members, and running a membership campaign to bring on co-ops and Black-led co-op support organizations throughout the diaspora, so wherever we are. So we've got a steering committee right now. Priscilla, who just introduced, is part of the steering committee, as is Danielle, who will be coming on later. And we're in the US, in Canada, and the Caribbean. And we settled on 4 pillars of work that'll be guiding us through this year. One of them is growing resources for Black cooperatives. Another is coordinating education and training opportunities for Black cooperatives. A third is mapping the global Black cooperative ecosystem. And yes, the whole global Black cooperative ecosystem. We need to be able to know we exist and find each other, to be able to connect. And that gets us to the fourth one, that's about deepening relationships among Black cooperators, so that we can know each other and get involved and really support the work that each of us is doing. So if you want to get involved with that work, whether it's through having a co-op or organization join, or donating, or sharing some other source to help us, meet these goals, then I'm going to put our website in the chat, so that you can go to it, and that way you can sign up there and support the work, get involved, and really help take things to the next level. So that's what we're looking for, and we're out to create. And so that's what brings us to tonight. So we launched this Black Co-ops for Change as a series, a webinar series that we're doing now, and we're going to be doing it every 2 months. And so this time, in this third session, we decided that we really wanted to highlight the incredible work that was happening at 40 Acre Co-op. This is a time, and it's timely. It's always timely. The issues we're dealing with they're happening all the time. And all of the cooperatives that that are being launched are meeting some kind of a need. And so we were really excited about the work when we heard about 40 Acre Co-op, that this is an effort to really to save land, to save Black land, and bring attention to an issue that has been for too long ignored, and that is the plight of Black farmers in the United States, and really creating opportunities for Black farmers to hold on to land. So I'm not going to say any more, because our presenter, Angela Dawson, for 40 Acre Co-op, is going to break that down. And then once Angela is done, we're going to do a Q&A session, an interview of sorts. And so you'll have an opportunity to ask questions in the chat, and those will be picked up. We'll look through those and pick them up. But this is really something that we want to make sure happens. What we're about at Collective Diaspora is really creating the space for Black co-ops to shine, and for Black cooperators to find each other. So if you like what you hear, and I know that there are folks from not just the United States, but from around the world, and I know that there's the folks that are in Colombia have been dealing with similar issues, and we've got drug war happening in the United States, an intense drug war and displacement and conflict that's been happening in Colombia. And I know folks in Colombia really want to be able to engage in this kind of a conversation about how do we actually hold on to Black land, and how do we take a drug war and that we've lived through it, and really create the opportunities that we're able to sustain ourselves in a way that doesn't create further conflict, and actually allows our communities to grow and to nurture. So with that, I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to pass it over to Angela Dawson, who has graced us here is joining us here tonight, along with Tanya, who's going to be joining us later, and Zade, who will be joining us in the Q&A. So Angela, I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Wow. Wow, that was just what a prelude there, Omar. This is amazing. I heard a little bit about what Collective Diaspora was about. I just kind of read up after having email exchanges with you. And now with hearing your explanation of it, I am even more impressed about this work that you have embarked upon, because, the issue with bringing collective economic and social power for Black people in the diaspora is a huge step. Like, I thought it was a big step for me to talk about bringing together Black farmers around the issue of land, right? But you've even broadened that around the whole entire world. And also to add the cooperative piece in it, it is so needed. And so I just am very honored to be in this space with everyone here, to be able to share about the 40 Acre Cooperative. There's actually many, as you might know, as folks in here might know, that there's many layers, right, to cooperatives, and also many layers when we talk about the Black economic condition, specifically about farmers. There's so many layers to this work. And so I'm going to try to do the best I can. But the way that I've kind of organized this presentation is this kind of covers some of the technical aspects, because there's the technical side, right? How does it work? What do you do? How do members come? Where you operate? What do you provide? So I have that in that presentation. But then there's all these other layers that I want us to be able to engage in. And I think I know Danielle will do a wonderful job at helping me dig through some of those layers so that I can communicate as much quality content on this webinar as possible. So again, thank you. And I'm so excited to move forward. So I am going to find my presentation, and I am going to try to share the screen. It's been a moment since I've done this. Technology isn't always my friend. Okay, so there we go. We got share screen. Okay, so I'm going to figure this out. And then this looks a little different than what I was used to it, but allow Zoom to share your screen. Yes. Okay. And then I think it says yes. And it doesn't look like, oh, here we go. I have to turn something on. I didn't know that. Okay. So, all right. Zoom may not be able to, oh, okay. So let me just see. It's giving me some weird language about sharing my screen. So let me try it one more time. I hope it's not going to require me do it on my own later. It's saying that I have to quit Zoom in order to share my screen. That's not what I want to happen. So, you know what? I think I might send this. Can I send this to you, Omar? Maybe I'll send my
Yeah,
presentation to you because it's asking me to
no
quit Zoom
problem.
in order to share my screen. This is a newer computer that I'm using, so I'm just going to share. I'm going to send this to you. I'm going to share it. It's on a Google Drive, so I'm just going to share it with you. So just give me a quick second. I'm going to do this and I'm going to share it with you, and then you can share the screen. Is that okay? Okay,
No
Omar,
problem.
what's your email address?
Here, I will send it to you.
Okay.
Note to self, everybody and
Yeah.
everybody, get your slides to the get you know, if you're hosting, make sure you get the slides just
Yes.
in case.
Just in case. And thank you for your patience. It's going to be well worth the time. I tell you that because there's a lot that I love to share. As a matter of fact, I just also want to say that I love sharing. I have a different kind of presentation that I do when I'm in community with my people, as Danielle has heard before. There we go. Gotcha. And then then I do for other people, like, you know, the Department of Agriculture or or Target or these other people. And so I love to be able to, all right, it's shared with you now. I love to be able to be in community with y'all and share information in this way because I just feel a lot more comfortable and it feels a lot less threatening. So thank you. So as I'm talking, I'm going to just explain a little bit about myself as we're getting the screen shared. Omar told you my name is Angela Dawson. I am a fourth generation farmer. We call ourselves now fourth generation reclamation farmers because my great grandparents lost the farm, right? As a lot of Black folks did during the time. Just to give you a quick, brief introduction, my ancestral history was linked to a man named Jabez Dawson. Jabez Dawson was kidnapped from the west coast of Africa at the age of 15 to work on a plantation in Georgia. So Jabez is my father's great grandfather. Okay, so the whole entire family lineage under Jabez's, all of his sons, they all had a lot of sons and they all were farmers. And I am the first of their grandchildren to reclaim the farming legacy of the Dawsons and began my own farm as a full-time farmer. I did this from law school. I was initially supposed to be a lawyer at the University of Minnesota. And I was introduced to a real Black farmer here in Minnesota, which is a really rare thing. You can go to the first screen. Oh yeah, and this is fine too. Yes, by my husband, who was one of the very few Black farmers in the state of Minnesota. And he's a veteran of the United States Army who has a lot of injuries from jumping out of planes and in combat. And he used and grew cannabis like a lot of our family members have just for his own treatment because the medications that were being offered to him were very highly addictive prescription drugs that had horrible side effects. So 7 years ago, I took a sabbatical from law school to go to other states where cannabis, which is one of the oldest plants in the plant family, but cannabis was being grown in a few states that were legal in the United States at the time. So we went to an area of the United States called the Emerald Triangle. And the Emerald Triangle is an area where basically all the strains of weed come from in the United States, where all the high quality strains come from. And so we studied there for a couple of seasons. We bought into a grow business and just learned as much as we could from the organic farmers that were in the Emerald Triangle. So that's where this picks up off. So let's see. So we are on, a reclamation farmer. I told you I was a 4th generation reclamation farmer. And so that just speaks to what I was telling you about my great-great-grandparents, where in 1920, there were almost 1 million Black farms. I believe they owned about 42 million acres at the time. And through systemic exclusion, racism, and discrimination, and sometimes terrorism, now we only have about 45,000 Black farmers. And that is a loss of almost 98%. That is an endangered species here in the US. And so along with the loss of Black farmers, they have also lost, as you can see, a significant amount of land. I believe maybe the total ownership in the US, I can't remember the last number, might be around 10 million acres. It's really small. And it's continuing to be lost, as we could talk about later. And so there's a lot of conversation going on nationally now. I think 40 Acre Co-op, since we call ourselves the first national Black co-op in the US since the Reconstruction period. There is one other agricultural cooperative in the South. They only serve about 10 or 11 states in the South. They wouldn't allow me to be a member, for example, because I'm in the North. But we have members in the South, in the North. You'll hear from Tanya a little bit later. She even has family in the West Indies. So we are also thinking worldwide in the diaspora, Omar. So you can go ahead to the next slide. But so basically, because of this issue around the loss of Black land and Black farmland, what Harold and I were doing as we were trying to find out. So I went to find out about cannabis, right? I was looking at who was growing weed around the country and how much money they were making. I'm just going to be playing with y'all. So there was a lot of money being made, okay? There was a lot of money being made. And what we were noticing is that there were no people of color in ownership of any of all these people that I was learning how to grow cannabis from. They were all white landowners, right? And they might have had some people of color working the land, watering the plants, cleaning up, helping them with building stuff. But there was no one in any of these farms that we went to. There were no Black people owning any of these businesses. And so I just decided then, first of all, I decided, law school was looking less and less attractive as I was seeing how the economy of cannabis was working here privately with these white farmers, right? And then I was thinking of different ways that I could find a way that we could have more Black owners in this industry. So the 40 Acre Co-op came out of this desire. Now, I should also say, as a part of my background, I've been a part of co-ops for the last 20 years myself. So if you don't know, we're located in Minnesota. Minnesota has the most co-ops per capita in the US. Minnesota is a very cooperative state. As a matter of fact, some of the first food co-ops started here in Minnesota. And there's a lot written about them. So some of those early co-op heads, I actually was mentored by. And I always noticed, I'm a member of a couple of different co-ops. I co-founded 40 Acre Co-op, but I'm a member of many different co-ops. I've always been a member of co-ops because I always thought the idea was attractive. But here in Minnesota, all of the co-ops are white owned, right? And so I've been a member for the last 25 years of different co-ops, and I've seen them grow exponentially. I mean, millions of dollars, expansion, 2 locations, 3 locations, more members, 5 new presidents. I mean, just, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm just like, there's no, between the cannabis ownership and seeing all that having no Black folks in ownership and the cooperatives here, that growing and I just thought, like, one day, there was a dream far off. One day I can find a way to put these things together so that there's actually Black people who are owning and running a cooperative and also working in cannabis and owning their own business. And so that's just really what this solution is: generating health for our customers, wealth for our farmers, and sustainability for our shared future. You can go to the next slide. There we go. So this is just kind of the technical aspect that I was telling you exactly what we do. So here's, where we try to take farmers from what we say is our sort of our ethical promise is from seed to wellness. So we try to help, and we do find ways to help farmers at each stage of the supply chain, right? So one of the things that you find out when you get into the cannabis business is that there's all kinds of businesses from seed all the way to the finished product retail. And there's areas for us to be involved at each stage. Now, I'm a real farmer, so my expertise is in the cultivation and the growing. And so where we look at, and also because my history as a writer and as a lawyer, I did marketing a lot. So I wrote contracts and I did the marketing at a large foundation over a good amount of the time that I was involved with co-ops. And so where I don't have expertise is where we have the rest of the co-op members and the rest of the community join in. So you can go to the next slide. So I just want to say with this one, and then we can go to the next one too, is that our focus is on what they call socially disadvantaged farmers. That's a USDA term. I say historically excluded, historically marginalized, different terms to really identify the people that we're trying to reach are the people who do not have access to the USDA resources, the people whose maybe grandparents have also had their land taken away, like my great-grandparents have, or the people who, there's some Black folks here who their family has even been able to hold on to 40, 50, or 100 acres, but it's sitting dormant because they don't have a sustainable crop to grow on that land. And so we support them at every stage of their life cycle. You can go to the next one. So just a quick note about what the cannabis industry. So I interchange the word cannabis and hemp because you might know cannabis is a very naughty word in some spaces, right? And so there are still some areas, well, for me, for example, it's very hard to get banking services where I'm at because banks in Minnesota do not support the cannabis business. But sometimes if I say I grow industrial hemp, I can get an account open. So I have a small limited use account, but that's because I don't use the word cannabis with that account. So with you guys, it's safe to use cannabis. I don't always use that word. It depends on who I'm talking to. But so when I say the need for equity in the hemp industry, this is overall in cannabis. In the state of Minnesota, if you're Black, you're 5.8 times more likely to be arrested for the same amount of possession of cannabis as a white person. And there's different states in different areas, and I think in the South, it can get up to 8 or 9 times more likely, but it's still an egregious disparity, right? And it's all a part of the war on drugs and what they call reefer madness, how when the prohibition of cannabis was made legal in the early 70s, the propaganda was that it was a drug that Blacks and Mexicans used to seduce and hypnotize white women with jazz music, right? So it was Black music, it was Black people, it was Mexican people, and that speaks for that disparity right now still, right? So if you're Black or you're brown, you're at least 5 to 6 times more likely to be arrested for the same amount of possession as a white person. Yet on the ownership side, so now that you see legalization happening, it's about 81% of the businesses who are legally selling cannabis are white owned, right? And so the rest of us get the 4%. You can go to the next slide. So how we help farmers that come into our system is that we provide training. That's a large part of it because it's all about being compliant and making sure that they don't get targeted. You know, knowing that there's already a target on Black people's backs, when, especially when it comes to growing cannabis, training is a large part of what we have to do first, because I don't want people going to jail any more than they already are at risk for it, right? And so training on the compliance, training on how to handle things like the language, don't go to a bank and say you're a cannabis farmer. Like that kind of stuff is really important in order for people to set up their businesses to be successful, because you can just get cut off, right? You know, some people just think, you know, we should be able to do the same thing that white business owners do, and we should. But that doesn't happen in reality when we go to the banks. The local bank person, my local credit union, a cooperative credit union, closed my account because they said they thought I might be trafficking drugs. So, and that's only because, you know, with hemp and cannabis, sometimes you get large transactions. You have large transactions. It's an expensive business to get into. So they saw large transactions in my account. And so even though they couldn't really target anything in specific, they just said, you just might be trafficking, and we just don't want to have that risk. So we're closing your account. You got to get your money out. You got 30 days. So training is important, grow supplies. I'll talk a little bit later, but I did end up creating my own strain of hemp, of compliant hemp that tests under the guidelines that the Farm Bill and the USDA has established for growing hemp in this country. And so we provide seeds, and then we have a biomass processing, and we are working on a
Todo o
farm.
processo também a gente está trabalhando nele.
Next slide. So this is the states that we are working in.
Então, isso é o estado onde a gente está trabalhando.
So, Michelle,
Can you put that up again?
you're on the English channel. Indicate on the Portuguese channel.
Português.
So, hold on, Angela.
Yeah.
We got it.
Olá.
Omar, can
Michelle,
you put
hear
the
me
map
now?
back up?
I'm hearing you on the English channel.
You hear me in the English channel?
Yep.
I'm in the Portuguese.
No, you're still on the English channel right now.
And now?
Yep, still.
Now
Let
I'm
me-
in the Portuguese channel.
Hold on, let's see. We gotta. Michelle wound up was wound up not getting knocked off the call and had to come back in. So we've got to get her back
Yeah.
into the Portuguese channel.
Mute original audio. Can you hear me now in the Portuguese channel?
No, you're still there. Lady, I'm gonna need your assistance on this one to come back in and do what you did before. These things happen.
Technology, right?
Yes.
Thank you everyone for being patient. We have more than 30 people in the building, in the space. So thank you.
People, 4 languages.
Right, languages. Wow, people from all over the place. Look at that. Philadelphia, Maryland. The cannabis regulators of color. I've heard about that coalition. Thank you for being here, Kat.
Obrigada porque vocês estão.
And while we're getting Michelin set up here, I want to give a shout out to Afro Resistance. Afro Resistance is an amazing organization focused on Black women and girls throughout the Americas and Black human rights organization. And so they are the ones coordinating the handling the language justice component, making sure that we've got Black women doing interpretation from countries directly from within the global South, and so we've got Lady who's interpreting from Colombia, and we've got Michelange in Brazil who are doing the interpretation. So I want to give a shout out to Afro Resistance. So if any of you are looking for interpreters for your events, reach out to Afro Resistance to do that.
A gente tem mulheres negras aqui traduzindo. A gente tem Norma no
Michelle,
Colômbia e Michele para português.
you're still on coming in on the English language channel. Lady, can you give us a thumbs up when we're good to go?
Omar, do you mind putting the map back up of where the map you had up showing where that operate the different states?
So we're just taking a pause right now to get our language and our interpreters coordinated. So we'll resume once they're back on board.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I'll pause the screen sharing for a moment. Unfortunately, I can't pause the recording, so anybody else, you'll see this.
Yes, this is real authentic. Right? She said that she fixed it, and just make sure that Michelle clicks on Portuguese.
All right, so Michelle, let's see.
She entered back into the waiting.
Can you hear me in the Portuguese channel?
I hear you. I hear you in the Portuguese channel.
I'm trying to enter in another because
Yep.
it sounds I could hear you. Oh, sorry.
All right, so Michelle is on the Portuguese channel, so we're good to go.
Out and
Oh,
I'm gonna let her back in. Yeah, there we go. How about that? Looks like she's good. I don't know. Is she?
all right. I shall. So Michelle, you were on the Portuguese channel a moment ago, and looks like she's there. She's there now. All right, so we're good. We're good to go.
Yay.
All right, Angela, I am going to restart the share.
Okay. Thank you, lady. All right, so this map needs a little bit of updating, but I'm so glad that we started this map because I did forget to tell you that so we're located up here in Minnesota, unceded territory of the Anishinaabe people. My mother's side of the family has many generations of integration with the Anishinaabe people, and we do have 2 different tribal nations as members of the cooperative as well. It's a little more complicated on tribal land, so they are tribal members, but their land that they're farming on that we're helping them with is not on the reservation. Too many politics with that. So, but I just wanted to say that we are also, so this map is like the green states are the states that we have hemp growers that we've helped get licensed, that we've helped them secure equipment, that we've helped them get started in some way. I actually need to put Wisconsin on there too now because Tanya who you'll be hearing from later, is in Wisconsin. So we're continuing to grow. We do decide what states to go into based on what the hemp laws are, what the regulations are. Like I said, we don't want people going to jail, doing work. And different people are in different stages of learning and training with us. You know, some people have full farms already operating. Some people we're still just coaching them on how to select the right land and how to make sure that they are able to grow within the next 2 or 3 growing seasons. So everyone comes in at different phases. And of course, you have to understand, working with Black people in particular who have been stripped of their land, don't have the same resources, you know, people don't really understand how much of an advantage white farmers have over everyone else in this country in terms of the USDA being set up just especially for them to serve all of their farming needs. And as much as some Black folks have tried, we cannot farm like them. We don't have the same relationship with the land. We don't have the same access to the same tools. So when you think about farmers and the American farmer freedom myth, that is for a select few white farmers, and Black farmers do not have that same experience. And we need a whole lot more resources to even get started on a small scale with 5 acres than most typical farmers do. So, but yes, we're always looking to grow. And like I said, we look at what the readiness is, what the local leadership is like, because we operate in hubs and we like to find a community of folks who are already leading their own community, right? And as a cooperative, we just give the resources to that hub that they need in order to get on board with production. So you can move to the next slide. So I probably don't need to tell y'all this, but why we chose hemp and cannabis is because most crops that are grown in the United States are not profitable. It's very hard to make a profit in any kind of farming. I mentioned traditional farming before. Corn and soybeans are commodity crops in the United States. Farmers used to get about 60 cents on the dollar. Maybe in the 1950s, farmers get 10 to 15 cents on the dollar for growing corn and soybean now. And you have to have thousands and thousands of acres to even make it make sense. And still farmers, white farmers, don't always make it make sense, but they get loans and credits and forgiveness and all kinds of things to keep their land and to keep their businesses solvent and to keep them going. We don't have access to that kind of stuff. So I found cannabis, because of the economic opportunity, to be the leading crop for us to grow in order to get into an equitable space so that we can begin to be independent and sustainable on the land. Not only that, hemp has 25,000 documented uses. It uses less water than paper. It is antifungal, it's antimicrobial. It has, it doesn't require pesticides in order to grow, but it's also drought resistant, right? It started in the desert. So it also presents many efficient biofuel. I have a lot of folks on the White Earth Nation in northern Minnesota that are creating battery and energy storage with hemp. They're building housing with hemp. And one of the things that I really like to talk about is the research that we're doing that's finding how much hemp sequesters carbon from the soil and the air. And so for all that climate mitigation that we all have to do because of the damage of corporate agriculture over the last few decades, I find hemp to just have so many regenerative purposes. Not only that, of course, it contains the healing medicine that so many of us need. So that's why we chose that crop. Now we do, we're still organic farmers. I have vegetables. I have pigs, chickens, cows, goats, and lambs. And I'm also really interested, as Tanya will talk a little bit about, is gourmet mushrooms. So, but really hemp is the thing that supports all of that. You can go to the next slide, Omar. How many minutes? Did somebody say minutes? Yes, so I can skip through these ones. I'll be kind of fast because this is just this is more of the technical stuff. I think I'm really interested to hear what folks are thinking about right now and how this information is setting with them. But, you know, because of the work that we've done, we have attracted a lot of national proposals, partnerships, some large, you know, some of the larger national hemp companies like Charlotte's Web, Charlotte's Web is basically the company that's made hemp and CBD legal in all 50 states. So they partner with us on some stuff. I do some research with the University of Minnesota. The USDA is trying to shut me up, so they offer me stuff nothing that's really quite yet. But I mean, you know, we're doing stuff, and we do have a waiting list. We have a waiting list of about 300 people that we're trying to get through the program, but you know, we are still pretty low resource. We're looking for training dollars so we can get more people through. I'd like to do more sessions per year. I've really only been able to do 2 or 3, but we will increase that as our training budget grows and I can get more staff and more teachers. But we're just so specific about what we want farmers to learn as we go through this. And so it's not just anyone can teach. So it's something that we're growing in our resources. You can go ahead. Oh, but yeah, so this is the important part that I want to cover. This is our innovation. You can skip one more time. This is Wonder Woman. She is the strain of hemp that I created 3 years ago, now 4 years ago. It's you know, one of the first things that I heard is that in Iowa, well, actually there's a company called the Stein Seed Company, and Black farmers have a class action lawsuit against them for selling them inferior seeds over the last couple of decades that had really had such an impact on their productivity that they were their crop productivity was like 20% less, sometimes 30-40% less than their white neighbors. So there's this issue sometimes with Black farmers feeling like they were getting bad seeds, they intentionally, which, you know, that's something that we have to worry about. I had a couple of instances where I didn't like the seeds, where people were selling me stuff that didn't turn out right. So I just wanted to I wanted to know, I didn't want someone to sell me something that would get hot and I would get raided. So I just wanted to know what I was growing and make sure that it was in compliance. So you can go ahead. I have a strain that I created, and her name is Wonder Woman. This is a technology machine. It's kind of a mobile technology unit that I created with some engineers that is basically it's a mobile nursery that I created my strain in, and it allows me to, you know, have access to my own genetics and my own seeds. I don't have to look and buy and wonder if it's gonna grow or not, or be hot, or be weed when I'm thinking it's hemp. Or I just wanted to make sure that I knew what I was giving to our co-op members. It's been tested. I knew where they come. I know where all the lineage of the strain comes from, and I have control. It's just an important part of the supply chain control that I think it's important for all, especially Black growers, to have. You can go forward, please. So this different ways that we look at earning money. I can talk more about this later. We probably don't have a lot of time to talk about this, but this is there's a couple of financial models that I've created for members to figure out where they can fit in and what kind of money they can look at growing. But basically, as a member of the co-op, as soon as they start producing, they get paid for producing for the co-op. They get paid for what they produce. And then of course, at the point that we start to make a profit, those profits are redistributed to members. We're not there yet. We're growing slower than I wanted to. We had the pandemic. Well, we basically started during the pandemic. So it's been really difficult to get us there, but I keep this in front of me because this is my goal. These are the goals that we want to be able to be, you know, by 2024, especially in the state of Minnesota, where cannabis is going to become legal. It's really possible that the co-op can make $7 million. We're not there yet, but that's something that we are striving for. You can go ahead, please. So this is just kind of some of the wrap up. I'm wrapping up here, but this is just some important things for folks to know about what's happening with cannabis in the US. In 2025, it's projected to be a $35 billion business, and it's on track still to do that. This is from a year and a half ago, these statistics, but it's still pretty true. It is a 10% growth rate every year. Black people are a fast growing demographic within the CBD space, in the hemp space, but we haven't really been given space here. Wellness and hemp and CBD have typically been a white space, but I think with 40 Acre Co-op and then with these kinds of conversations that we're having, more Black people are reclaiming not only the land, but also hemp and cannabis as a way to legitimately operate sustainable businesses. Let's see. Yeah, you can go ahead. You can go ahead again. This is just some of the media work that we've done. This is just some pictures of what the inside of the nursery looks like and my last crop of Wonder Woman that I grew. We also have hoop house units that we operate in. Let's see, you can go ahead again. I'm just kind of solar, yeah. Solar technology is something that we're working on. These hoop houses are run by solar power. This is, we have a small grant to try to grow this. It's not easy to grow on solar, especially in Minnesota that has 6 months of winter, but that's something that we're working on. You can go ahead, Omar, please. I think we're kind of wrapping it up here. That's me and Harold inside doing some cloning of Wonder Woman, a couple of, yeah, some of the guys. So we're in rural Minnesota. And so Davey, I want to point you to Davey on the right-hand side. He is a guy that we found who was growing cannabis in the Emerald Triangle for the past 15 years. And he's also committed to organic production. He knows everything about Wonder Woman. He has helped me protect it. But, you know, we do need more people of color and more Black people in particular to get at that skill level. And that's what I'm hoping that the co-op can begin to produce more Black people who are able to grow at that capacity and who can do it legitimately, right? And stay on the right side of the market. And you know, I'm mostly concerned about them not going to jail. And so finding brothers in particular who feel safe doing that is really difficult, but that's something that we're working on with the visibility of the co-op. And I think that's about it. Are there any other? Yeah, those are some of the brands that we work with. I mentioned that before, not just jail. Yes, right, Zade, you're gonna talk about that. I think, yeah, these are some of the brands. These are some of the products right now that Wonder Woman is in, that we're working on. But we're continuing to grow. Any other, I think, is there any other slides? I think that's it for the slides. Yeah, the rest are just some, I think that's just, yeah, that's just miscellaneous information. But I thank you guys so much for your time. I want you to meet the rest of the members of the co-op. I can't wait for Danielle to ask her questions because she always asks really good questions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that presentation. I mean, that was a lot. You've done so much. 40 Acres is 7 years old. That's just really incredible work. I think Priscilla is inviting folks to share comments and questions. We've already received some questions and comments in the chat, so you can please keep them coming. Shelly is asking about if you will be making your slides available to folks. And then I would love it if Zade and Tanya, if you want to say hello and talk about, you know, just briefly how you're connected with 40 Acres Co-op and what you're all up to.
Sure, I can go next. So good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Tanya Whitfield, and I'm just so, every time I hear Angela tell the story of 40 Acre Co-op, I just feel so just grateful to be a part of this organization. Just a little bit about myself, a little bit of background. I actually was drawn to farming just actually from as a young child. I grew up in several different places, including Minnesota, also Louisiana, Missouri, and Iowa. And it was in Louisiana and Missouri where I was exposed to farming, cane farming, and also in Missouri, just, having livestock and other large tractor equipment. And so in my young adulthood in Minnesota, I was living in the inner city, and I was, I had a diet of like someone living in the inner city, not really having access to fresh food, and didn't really have any knowledge really about where to even start growing, even in my own backyard. And so I actually was a previous law enforcement officer. And when I left law enforcement, I was actually called to the West Indies in 2012. And so it was during that time that I really had a hands-on experience of growing my own food and seeing the benefits of growing my food and taking it to market. And I mean, it just blew my mind. And so I travel back and forth. My significant other lives there. And I travel back and forth between the West Indies and the Twin Cities. And so, I really was led to just really try to recreate what I saw my family doing over there for the past 10 years here in the States. And so my daughter was on board. She's on the call right now. So I'm just so excited to be here with Angela and Zade and my daughter as well. We're just creating we're creating a new generation, but also resurrecting what was lost in the past, So it just feels good to have us all on the call tonight, including everyone else that's on the call. And we hope that this would also inspire you to, really not only get involved, but also bring your family members along, because again, we really want to be good stewards of the land, but we also want to be able to leave a legacy, right? So when I returned back to the States in 2021, that's when I got connected with 40 Acre Co-op, because I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to grow. I didn't know where I was going to find land, I mean, Black farmers are so necessary, right? Because we don't get the support that we need. And so I knew I needed support. I actually found 40 Acre Co-op online. I was just, I'm in Minnesota, and they pop up as this Black co-op. And I'm like, what is this? I mean, I didn't know anything about Black co-ops or anything like that. I didn't even know that something like that existed. And so I connected with Angela, and I mean, I was just like she said earlier, Minnesota is really just a force in this movement. And so I was just so thankful that I was in Minnesota in that time, at that very hour, that I could be in the same state as this movement. And so I have just learned so much through 40 Acre Co-op. First of all, it really started with me wanting land. I had never had any land. And so when I heard Angela's story, I was like, I really could do this. Like, she did this from nothing. She just, she lost, she has this legacy with her family, and she didn't inherit land, but she knew that she could really actually do this. And so after listening to her story, I'm like, I really think that I can try to do this. And so I looked in Minnesota, and I couldn't really, first of all, afford land there, that the type of land I was looking for, something very small, something affordable, but something that, I didn't have to go in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I needed something that would fit my needs. And so I found that in Wisconsin. And so, it's a 2.5 hour drive from the Twin Cities, and 1.5 hours from 40 Acre Co-op. And You know, it was exactly what I was looking for, 5 acres, and my daughter was able to purchase the 5 acres behind me. And I get on the land and I'm needing this support from 40 Acre Co-op because this is raw land. I mean, this wasn't turnkey, you know, I couldn't afford turnkey. So all I could afford was, I just knew I needed this land. Okay. I would have just took the land and took a tent out there. I was just so happy to have land, y'all. I'm serious. So we got out on the land and I was living in my camper. Okay. We're not talking about, you know, turnkey here. Okay. I just wanted to get on this land, y'all. And when me and my daughter got on this land, it just we felt free. Okay. You know, I really want to be authentic with you all. Okay. I need you to understand that, like, we're talking about not inheriting land from my family, not having any land in any part or lineage of my family right now. We're talking maybe a couple generations back. Previous to that, yes, of course, and the land was taken, right? But we're talking immediate family where there's no traceable land that could have even made it to my generation, right? So just to have this piece of land and know that, hey, I could really try to do something here. I just felt like I wasn't alone being a part of this co-op. And, you know, some of the things that I learned was really the story about, you know, the option to actually grow hemp. And, you know, hemp was really important to me because as a former law enforcement officer, I dealt a lot with post-traumatic stress disorder. I dealt a lot with injuries, previous injuries. You know, I have a spinal injury that I'm working with right now, and cannabis helps me a great deal. So it's just really important for me to have access to products that can actually help me health-wise as well. And so, you know, one of the things that I want to do on my land is also, you know, grow culinary mushrooms. And that's really important to me because I have a treed lot. And I'm just, you know, we're not talking, you know, 40 plus to 100 acres. My 5 acres is good. And I would love to have more. That's great. But you know what? If it was 1 acre, I will be happy. Do you understand? Just getting a piece of land was so just wonderful for me because I knew I could do something with it. And what I love about being a part of this co-op is they met me where I'm at. Like there's so much other additional things that I need that they have been able to just, you know, send me resources and educate me about. And so I know one day I'm going to get my well. I know one day I'll have a better, you know, housing structure on my land. I just know that, hey, getting the land is a start. You know, if you can just get you a piece of land or get you a small, it doesn't even have to be an acre. Okay. We're just talking about something that you can start to grow and put the seed in the ground. And so I don't know how much time I know Zayday, I want to, you know, pass that on to Zayday and maybe we can, you know, I don't want to, but I just wanted to share with you all that, you know, you have to start somewhere and, you know,
thank you
start
so
where
much.
you're comfortable at. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tanya. We have just a few more minutes left. Zayday, we would love to hear a little bit about your connection with 40 Acres and the farming work that you're doing too.
Yes, hello, can everyone hear me? Hi, my name is Zayday. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the co-owner of Grand Risings Farm and a member of 40 Acre Cooperative. Also, Angela is my mother. I get a lot of firsthand knowledge, but I also am learning a lot through 40 Acre Cooperative because my partner and I have Grand Risings Farm. So I do grow organic produce here in the not Twin Cities, here in Minnesota. And we also do a lot of education and workshop training for folks who are interested in cannabis or organic produce farming. The cannabis side of things is more what 40 Acre Cooperative teaches us and guides us on. Our expertise is produce, organic vegetables and fruit, and overall homesteading type of lifestyle being so young. We have a lot of folks our age that are really curious on land ownership and all those things, which I'm not yet a landowner, but I do love to tend to the land. And so my connection to 40 Acre Cooperative is learning all the things of agriculture and how to do regenerative practices. My other job in adjacency to this is nonprofit work with supporting Black and Brown vulnerable families. And a lot of it has the lens and optics of abolition work. So we do a lot of things on bringing accessible resources and information to folks who are wanting to rehabilitate themselves from incarceration. And so that's where my work and 40 Acre Cooperative's work blend, because they do a lot of work with formerly incarcerated people that are trying to learn how to be a part of the cannabis growing business, but have those records and backgrounds, and that creates that barrier. So it's very humbling, sometimes, I'll be honest, discouraging to see so many Black and Brown people trying to make an economic way for themselves when it comes to agricultural living, and then having backgrounds of criminal records and all of these things that just create so many more barriers beyond even the economic part. So being a part of 40 Acre Cooperative has brought a lot of insight for me, and also better language to advocate for. For example, I work with the Minnesota Freedom Fund on bail reformation bills, and the language that I've been learning from 40 Acre Cooperative has been very helpful for me to know what I'm talking about, what my advocacy is for, and how we can bring our people to a liberated collective. And so it's such an honor to work with my mom and for her to be my mom under this stuff, but then also learning from the folks who have been a part of the cooperative as well that I've met. So that's my connection to 40 Acre Cooperative. Thank you.
Thank you, Zade. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. We don't have very much time. I did want to get in a question around if 40 Acres is open to new members. If so, how might they join? What are membership requirements?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we do have an application. We have an application form that we go over because we do like to match up members with the resources that the co-op has. Membership is there is a one-time fee for the membership. It's $500, but there's arrangements that people make for it. And in exchange for the membership, you get not only the training, you get access to seeds. We have an amazing training that's being produced right now that's also providing financial resources. And then we also do grant writing and help you with your business plan. So that's how you can join. And I can make sure, and to answer the two other questions, I'll make sure that Omar has the presentation, a PDF of the presentation, and I'll also send him the application information.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, do we have to be in one of the states that you listed to join, or can we be anywhere?
You know what, we can talk about that. It depends on, we'll take a look at your state. I actually doing a whole assessment of your state and what the regulations are, if you can even grow. If you can grow, yes, you can be a member.
Yeah, New York just passed recreational, so adult youth. So
yes, New York. All right.
There's another question in the chat about if you could recommend any books for us to learn and explore more about hemp farming or creating a Black-run cooperative.
Yes, I do. And I cover more details in the training, but I'll tell you about, on the co-op side, Collective Courage is a book that my mentor, Dr. Jessica Gordon-Nembhard, has written. I also love Farming While Black by Leah Penniman. And then Zade said that she has a recommendation. What recommendation do you have, Zade?
Fannie Lou Hamer.
Oh.
Reading about her history and her story and how she really did create a cooperative motto back then during one of the most harshest periods of our history is very, very helpful. Yes. And also Angela Davis touches a little bit on some too, on like it was a political lens, but she had a lens of cooperative movement work. So I would also recommend her.
Thank you. And then the last question I have for you all is there anything you want folks on this call to do tonight before they go to bed?
Danielle, you always come up with the stuff, don't you? You always challenge me with your questions. So what do I want? I mean, yes, I do. I would love for you, and I actually just was writing a piece about this, is find out what your connection to farming is in your lineage. A lot of Black people have expertise, farming expertise in their ancestry. Talk about it to your ancestors. Ask who was the ancestor who was the farming genius in your lineage, and find out if they want you to connect to that. And if they do, then call me. Because
that was amazing, Angela. So you were born for these kinds of questions. I really wanted to thank Tanya, Zade, and Angela for sharing the story of 40 Acres Cooperative, for sharing your own stories on your journey into farming and being a member owner of the 40 Acre Cooperative, and teaching us all about how we can reconnect and maybe reclaim our legacy and relationship to land as Black folks and as descendants of farmers on this land. So really appreciate you, the brave work that you're doing. We didn't get a chance to talk about the courage that it takes to be able to do this work. And I would imagine some of the power and security that comes from being a part of a cooperative doing this work in terms of ownership of land. So we appreciate you. We applaud your courage. We look to learn more from you. Thank you so much for joining the Collective Diaspora's Black Cooperative Learning Session this evening. You can learn more about Collective Diaspora on Instagram, on Facebook. You can check out our website and keep following us, and continue to look for more of our learning sessions throughout the year. We should have 5 more this year. Is that right? We have them every other month. Yes. So there'll be 5 more learning opportunities this year to join us with Collective Diaspora. Look for more ways to join our efforts as well in the future. Thank you so much to each of you for being with us and from learning from 40 Acres. Thank you all.
thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for sharing.
you,
It was
Angela.
great. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Omar.
Thank you, Omar, for holding space.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
you
This
all.
was so great.
Yes. Priscilla's trying to get an outro song. You had
I
all
only have
kind
the
of
Carnival
Black
Parade coming
farmer
through.
related
Couldn't get
songs.
Spotify. It's not
Well,
happening,
let's
but maybe
go
you
right.
can
I forgot to thank our interpreters. Thank you, interpreters.
Thank
You
you.
are amazing.
Yes, thank you, lady.
everyone.
Thank you, Michelle.
Please.
you.